The Crimson Ultimatum. The Crimson warships emerged from hyperspace like drops of blood spreading across black canvas. Commander Sarah Okonkwo watched from the observation deck of Titan Mining Station as 20 massive vessels positioned themselves in threatening formation around Saturn's largest moon. She had been supervising routine excavation operations when the alert came through. Now everything had changed. The lead vessel was unlike anything in human records. It stretched nearly 4 kilometers from bow to stern, its hull covered in what appeared to be organic plating that pulsed with deep red bioluminescence. Smaller craft swarmed around it like angry insects protecting their hive. Sarah's tactical display identified weapons ports numbering in the hundreds, all powered and ready. "Commander, we're receiving a transmission on all frequencies," her communications officer reported. The young man's voice carried an edge of fear that Sarah understood completely. Humanity had been exploring space for 2 centuries without encountering hostile alien life. That peaceful era appeared to be ending. "Put it through," Sarah ordered, keeping her voice calm despite the racing of her heart. The main view screen flickered to life, revealing a face that would haunt human nightmares for generations to come. Supreme Commander Vrel of the Talxirian Empire stood before them in full battle regalia. His species resembled reptilian humanoids, but with 6 arms instead of 2, and skin that shifted between shades of crimson and deep purple. His eyes were completely black, reflecting no light, giving him the appearance of staring into an abyss. When he spoke, his voice carried the weight of someone accustomed to absolute obedience. "Primitive humans, I am Supreme Commander Vrel. Your species has been evaluated and found suitable for integration into the Talxirian war machine. You will surrender all military assets and provide soldiers for our conquest of the Andromeda sector. You have 48 hours to comply. Resistance will result in the extermination of your species." The transmission ended abruptly, leaving shocked silence in the command center. Sarah's crew looked to her for guidance, their faces showing the same mixture of fear and outrage she felt burning in her chest. She had spent 15 years in the Colonial Defense Force, training for threats that everyone hoped would never materialize. Now those nightmares stood at their doorstep making demands. "Get me a direct line to Earth," Sarah commanded. "Priority Alpha, tell them we have a situation." Light years away on Earth, President Marcus Chen was finishing a late dinner when the emergency call came through. He had been president of the Unified Earth government for 3 years, dealing primarily with economic policies and colony expansion. War had never been part of his political calculus. Within minutes, he stood in the Situation Room surrounded by military advisors and political leaders, all staring at the recording of Vrel's ultimatum. "How many ships did they send?" Marcus asked Admiral James Whitmore, the grizzled veteran who commanded Earth's defense fleet. 20 capital ships and approximately 100 support vessels, James replied, his weathered face showing no emotion. "Based on energy signatures, each capital ship carries firepower equivalent to our entire Mars defense grid. They're positioned around Titan, but long-range scans show additional forces in deep space beyond Jupiter." Secretary of Science Dr. Aaron Patel leaned forward, adjusting his glasses as he studied the alien commander's image frozen on the screen. "Their technology is clearly advanced, but I'm detecting something interesting in the transmission. The way they position their ships, the phrasing of their demands, everything suggests they view this as a formality. They expect us to surrender without resistance." Marcus turned to his intelligence director, General Patricia Morrison. "What do we know about these Talxirians?" Patricia pulled up data files that had been compiled in the frantic hours since the aliens arrived. "Almost nothing, Mr. President. They're not in any of our exploration databases. Best guess is they come from beyond the galactic rim where our deep space probes haven't reached. Based on their ship configurations and the nature of their demand, we believe they're a conquest species. They've probably been expanding their empire for centuries." The president walked to the window overlooking the nighttime lights of New Geneva, humanity's capital city. Millions of people down there had no idea their entire way of life hung in the balance. He thought about his daughter studying at the Lunar Academy, his parents living in the Mars agricultural domes, all the innocent lives that would be destroyed if he made the wrong choice. "What are our chances if we fight?" Marcus asked quietly. James Whitmore stood and activated a holographic display showing human military assets across the solar system. "Officially, we have 347 warships, 5,000 atmospheric fighters, and ground forces numbering around 2 million across all colonies. Against their fleet, conventional tactics give us a 12% chance of victory. And unofficially? Marcus pressed. The Admiral's stern expression cracked into something that might have been a smile. Unofficially, Mr. President, these arrogant bastards have no idea what they're walking into. We've been preparing for this scenario since the day we left Earth. They think we're primitives playing with rockets and railguns. They're about to learn why you don't poke a sleeping predator. Marcus returned to the table and looked at each face around it. These were people he trusted with humanity's future. I need options. All of them. Dr. Patel spoke first. Project Sentinel has been in development for 20 years. We've never tested it in combat, but the simulations are promising. If we can get close enough to their command ship, we can deploy neural disruptors that should interfere with their biological systems. The quantum tunneling drives are operational, added Director of Advanced Weapons Rebecca Torres. Our ships can appear anywhere in the solar system within minutes. The Talxirians use conventional hyperspace, which means they need time to calculate jumps. We can be faster and more unpredictable. General Morrison pulled up intelligence reports. Our surveillance indicates the Talxirian military operates on a strict hierarchical system. Everything flows through their command ship. Take out Supreme Commander Vrel and their entire fleet loses coordination. They're powerful, but they're not adaptable. Marcus listened to each proposal, his mind racing through possibilities and consequences. 48 hours was not much time, but it might be enough if they acted decisively. He made his decision. Send a reply to their ultimatum. Tell them we need 72 hours to organize our surrender. Make it sound desperate and frightened. I want them confident and complacent, Mr. President, Patricia questioned. We're going to give them what they expect, Marcus explained. A primitive species scared of their superior technology. Let them think we're scrambling to gather our forces for a token resistance. Meanwhile, we activate every contingency plan we've developed. Admiral Whitmore, how long to get our full fleet into position? 60 hours if we push it, James replied. Do it. And Admiral, I want the Talxirians to think we're gathering at Mars for a last stand. The real fleet assembles hidden in the asteroid belt. Dr. Patel, how quickly can you weaponize Project Sentinel? 48 hours minimum, Aaron said. We'll need to work around the clock. Then you'd better get started. Rebecca, I want every quantum drive ship armed and ready. We're going to hit them from directions they don't think are possible. Marcus turned back to the view screen showing the frozen image of Supreme Commander Vrel. This empire has probably conquered hundreds of species. They roll in with overwhelming force, make their demands, and collect their tribute. But they've never faced humans before. They don't understand that we don't surrender. We adapt, we overcome, and we protect our own. Back on Titan, Sarah Okonkwo received new orders from Earth. The official message instructed her to prepare the mining station for evacuation, to show the Talxirians that humanity was complying with their demands. The unofficial message, encrypted and delivered through quantum channels, told a very different story. She gathered her senior staff in a secure conference room deep within the station's core. We're not evacuating, she told them bluntly. This mining station is about to become the most important military asset in human space. The Talxirians think we're primitives cowering before their might. We're going to show them the difference between technology and ingenuity. Her chief engineer, Marcus Liu, pulled up schematics of the station's infrastructure. The mining lasers can be reconfigured as weapons. They won't penetrate alien ship armor, but they'll serve as excellent distractions. We've also got 73 cargo haulers that can be retrofitted with explosive charges. Turn them into guided missiles. The station's fusion reactor can be overloaded, added power systems specialist Jennifer Washington. If we need a last resort, we can turn this entire facility into a bomb that would take out half their fleet. Sarah nodded approval. Good, but we're not planning to die here. We're planning to survive long enough for the Earth fleet to arrive. Every minute we keep the Talxirians focused on Titan is a minute our people have to prepare. Start the modifications immediately, but make sure everything looks normal on external scans. Over the next 48 hours, humanity transformed itself into something the galaxy had never seen. Civilian ships became troop transports. Scientists became weapons designers. Teachers and farmers and office workers lined up at recruitment centers, determined to defend their homes against an enemy that had made the fatal mistake of underestimating human resolve. Supreme Commander Vrel watched the human preparations with amusement from his flagship bridge. His tactical officers reported Earth vessels gathering near Mars exactly as expected. The primitive species was mounting a defense. probably hoping to negotiate better terms after showing token resistance. He had seen it 1,000 times before across 100 conquered worlds. "They're moving their civilians to underground shelters," his intelligence officer reported. "Standard evacuation protocols for a species facing superior force." Vrel's mandibles clicked in what passed for Talxerian laughter. "Let them run and hide. When the deadline expires, we will demonstrate what happens to species who make us wait. Begin targeting solutions for their major population centers. I want humanity to understand the price of defiance." What Vrel did not know, could not know, was that those civilian evacuations were moving people into position for something else entirely. Shelters became armories. Underground facilities became command centers. Humanity was not hiding. Humanity was loading the gun. As the 48-hour deadline approached its end, Sarah Okonkwo stood on Titan's observation deck one final time, watching the Crimson warships holding position around her station. They had not moved. Confident in their overwhelming superiority, she thought about her family on Earth, about the millions of humans across dozens of colonies, about the species that had climbed from caves to stars through nothing but determination and ingenuity. "All stations report ready," her tactical officer announced. "Earth fleet confirms position in the asteroid belt. We are go for Operation Defiance." Sarah activated her station-wide communication channel. "This is Commander Okonkwo. In approximately 2 hours, the Talxerian Empire expects us to surrender. They think we're weak. They think we're primitive. They think we're afraid. Let's show them what humans do when someone threatens our home. Let's show them what fear really looks like." The deadline expired at exactly 0800 Universal Standard Time. Supreme Commander Vrel opened a channel to deliver humanity's death sentence, expecting to see broken leaders begging for mercy. Instead, President Marcus Chen appeared on screen, standing tall in the Situation Room, flanked by his military commanders. "Supreme Commander Vrel," Marcus said calmly, "we have considered your demands. Earth's answer is no. We will not surrender. We will not serve, and we will not be conquered. If you want a war, you've come to the right species. But I promise you this. Before this day ends, you will regret bringing your war to our doorstep." Vrel's expression shifted from amusement to rage. "Then your species will burn. All ships begin bombardment of the human mining station. Show them the price of defiance." The Talxerian fleet opened fire on Titan. Crimson energy beams lanced through space toward the mining station. Sarah watched them come, watched death approaching at the speed of light, and gave the order that would change everything. "All defensive systems active. Quantum shields to maximum. And someone get me a firing solution on their flagship. Let's teach these reptiles why you don't mess with humanity." The first beam struck Titan's shields and deflected away in spectacular bursts of energy. The Talxerians had expected their weapons to carve through primitive defenses like a knife through paper. Instead, they encountered quantum barrier technology that redirected incoming energy into parallel dimensions. Every shot they fired simply vanished, reappearing in empty space millions of kilometers away. On Vrel's bridge, confusion erupted. "What is this?" he roared. "How are they deflecting our weapons?" His science officer studied the readings with growing alarm. "Commander, their defensive technology is unlike anything in our databases. They're using quantum manipulation at a level we've never encountered. These humans are not primitives." Vrel's black eyes narrowed as realization began to dawn. He had made a terrible mistake. But pride and centuries of conquest would not let him admit it. "All ships concentrate fire on that station. I want it destroyed now." The Talxerian fleet poured more energy into their assault, but Titan's shields held firm. Sarah watched the display with grim satisfaction as her own weapons came online. The mining lasers, reconfigured for combat, began targeting Talxerian ships with precision that seemed impossible for a species that had supposedly never fought a space war. "Firing solutions locked," her weapons officer announced. "We have clear shots on 8 support vessels." "Fire at will," Sarah ordered. "And launch the cargo haulers. Let's see how they handle our special delivery." 73 cargo ships erupted from Titan's docking bays, their holds packed with fusion warheads and guided by AI systems that could react faster than any organic pilot. The Talxerians tried to shoot them down, but the haulers split into evasive patterns, weaving through enemy fire with inhuman precision. When they reached their targets, the explosions lit up the space around Saturn like a second sun. 5 Talxerian support ships disappeared in the blasts. 3 more suffered critical damage and began venting atmosphere. Supreme Commander Vrel stared at his tactical display in disbelief. In less than 10 minutes, these supposedly primitive humans had destroyed nearly a quarter of his support fleet. "Retreat to defensive formation," he commanded, his voice tight with barely controlled fury. "Launch all fighters and prepare boarding craft. If we cannot destroy them from range, we will tear that station apart with our own hands." But even as he gave the order, new contacts appeared on his sensors. Dozens of human warships emerged from quantum tunnels throughout the system, appearing from impossible angles and directions. The trap was sprung, and the Talxirian Empire was about to learn a lesson they would never forget. The war for Earth had begun, and humanity was just getting started. The awakening Admiral James Whitmore stood on the bridge of the UES Vigilant, humanity's newest and most advanced warship, watching the tactical display light up with contact markers. His fleet had been hiding in the asteroid belt for 2 days, using the dense field of rocks and ice to mask their quantum signatures from Talxirian sensors. Now they emerged like wolves descending on unsuspecting prey. "All ships report ready status," his tactical officer announced. "Quantum drives recharged and standing by for rapid deployment. Weapons hot. Project Sentinel armed and awaiting your command, sir." James allowed himself a thin smile. He had spent 40 years in the service, rising from a shuttle pilot to commander of Earth's entire military fleet. He had fought pirates in the Kuiper Belt, negotiated with separatist colonies, and trained for scenarios that kept other officers awake at night. This was the moment everything had been building toward. "Execute Battle Plan Prometheus," he ordered. "Show these invaders what happens when you threaten human space." The human fleet split into 3 groups, each utilizing quantum tunneling to appear simultaneously at different points around the Talxirian formation. The aliens had expected a conventional approach, ships burning fuel in predictable trajectories. Instead, human vessels simply appeared wherever they were needed, moving through space in ways that violated every principle of traditional warfare. Supreme Commander Vrel's flagship shuddered as human plasma torpedoes struck its shields. His crew scrambled to adjust defensive grids while trying to track enemies that seemed to teleport around them. The tactical display showed human ships blinking in and out of existence, striking and vanishing before return fire could be coordinated. "How are they doing this?" Vrel demanded, his 6 arms gesturing frantically at the displays. "Our sensors show them in one location, then they appear somewhere completely different." His chief science officer worked desperately to analyze the human technology. "Commander, they're using some form of quantum displacement. Instead of traveling through space, they're tunneling through alternate dimensions. Our targeting computers cannot predict their movements because there are no movements to track. They simply cease to exist in one place and reappear in another." Vrel's rage reached new heights. His species had conquered 73 worlds across 2 galaxies. They possessed technology that most spacefaring races considered godlike. Yet these humans, these primitives who had barely left their own star system, were making his fleet look like confused children playing with toys. "Launch all boarding craft," he commanded. "If we cannot destroy their ships from range, we will take them by force. Talxirian warriors are unmatched in close combat. Let us show these humans what true warriors look like." Thousands of boarding pods launched from the Talxirian fleet, armored capsules carrying elite soldiers trained for ship-to-ship combat. They accelerated toward human vessels, guided by targeting systems that should have made interception impossible. But the humans were ready. Captain Diana Torres commanded the UES Defiance, a heavy cruiser that served as the fleet's boarding action specialist. Her ship carried 3 battalions of colonial marines, the toughest soldiers humanity had ever produced. She watched the incoming pods with cold calculation. "All marine units to battle stations," she announced over the ship-wide channel. "We have incoming boarders. You know the drill. Make them regret every meter they advance." The Talxirian pods slammed into human ship hulls, cutting through armor with plasma torches. Alien warriors poured into the corridors, expecting to find frightened crew members and lightly armed security personnel. Instead, they found colonial marines waiting in prepared defensive positions, equipped with weapons specifically designed for close-quarters combat and zero gravity. Sergeant Marcus Webb led his squad in the defense of Defiance's engineering section. He had grown up on Mars, joining the Marines to escape poverty and find purpose. Now he crouched behind a bulkhead barrier, watching his motion tracker count down the seconds until contact. "Here they come," he told his squad. Remember your training. Short controlled bursts. Watch your fields of fire, and make every shot count. The first Talxirian warriors rounded the corner, their crimson armor gleaming under emergency lighting. They were huge, each standing over 8 feet tall with 6 arms carrying various weapons. Their black eyes showed no fear, only the confidence of soldiers who had never known defeat. That confidence lasted approximately 3 seconds. Marcus and his squad opened fire with kinetic accelerators, weapons that fired depleted uranium rounds at velocities that could punch through tank armor. The Talxirians had shields that could deflect energy weapons, but humanity had learned long ago that sometimes the simplest solutions were the most effective. Ancient principle meeting modern technology with devastating results. The alien warriors fell, their armor cracking under the kinetic impacts. Those behind them tried to return fire, but human defenders had positioned themselves with overlapping fields of fire that turned the corridor into a killing zone. For every meter the Talxirians advanced, they paid in blood. "They're tough bastards," Marcus observed, reloading his weapon as another wave of aliens pushed forward. "But they're not tactical. They just keep coming straight at us like they expect their armor to save them." His squad mate, Private Jennifer Choi, tossed a flash grenade down the corridor. "Their whole doctrine seems based on overwhelming enemies with superior firepower and shock troops. What happens when they face an enemy that won't be overwhelmed? They die," Marcus replied simply, opening fire again. Similar battles raged throughout the human fleet. Talxirian boarding parties encountered resistance far beyond anything they had expected. Human Marines fought with a ferocity that came not from training or indoctrination, but from the knowledge that they were defending their homes, their families, their entire species. There could be no retreat, no surrender, only victory or death. Back on Earth, Dr. Aaron Patel monitored the battle from his laboratory deep beneath the Himalayas. Banks of computers processed data streaming from the combat zone, analyzing Talxirian biology and psychology in real time. Project Sentinel was ready for deployment, but Aaron wanted to understand exactly how it would affect the enemy before giving final authorization. "The neural disruptors are performing better than expected," his assistant, Dr. Rebecca Song, reported. "The Talxirian nervous system is highly susceptible to specific frequency patterns. We can induce anything from mild confusion to complete system shutdown." Aaron studied the biological scans with growing excitement. The Talxirians might be physically powerful, but their brains operated on electromagnetic frequencies that human technology could manipulate. It was like discovering an enemy army was terrified of a sound only humans could produce. "What's the effective range?" he asked. "Current projections show approximately 5,000 kilometers from each transmission source," Rebecca replied. "If we deploy emitters on our capital ships, we can blanket the entire combat zone." Aaron activated his communication link to Admiral Whitmore. "Admiral, Project Sentinel is ready for combat deployment." Authorization codes transmitted. This should even the odds considerably. On the Vigilance Bridge, James received the data and immediately understood its implications. All ships activate Sentinel emitters. Let's scramble their brains and see how they fight when their own nervous systems betray them. Invisible waves of precisely calibrated electromagnetic energy radiated from human ships, washing over the Talxirian fleet. The effect was immediate and devastating. Alien warriors who had been pressing attack suddenly froze, their multiple arms jerking spasmodically as their neural pathways misfired. Ship crews found themselves unable to coordinate actions, their thoughts becoming confused and disjointed. On Vrel's flagship, the Supreme Commander felt a wave of disorientation wash over him. His vision blurred and his thoughts seemed to scatter like leaves in wind. Around him, his bridge crew stumbled and fell, unable to maintain even basic functions. "What is happening?" Vrel managed to slur, his speech centers struggling to form words. "What have they done?" His science officer, one of the few crew members still partially functional, stared at her instruments in horror. "The humans are broadcasting neural interference patterns. They're attacking our brains directly. Commander, they have weaponized our own biology against us." Vrel tried to issue orders, but his mind refused to cooperate. Centuries of military training and tactical knowledge were useless when he could barely remember his own name. In that moment of helpless confusion, the Supreme Commander finally understood the magnitude of his mistake. These humans were not primitives. They were apex predators who had learned to turn any advantage, no matter how small, into a weapon. Captain Diana Torres, saw the effect of Project Sentinel ripple through the enemy forces. Talxirian Marines who had been fighting with suicidal determination now wandered aimlessly through corridors, their weapons forgotten. Her own Marines moved through the disabled enemy soldiers, securing prisoners and retaking sections of the ship. All units, enemy resistance collapsing throughout the fleet, she reported to Admiral Whitmore. Recommend we press our advantage while they're disorganized, James agreed. All ships close to engagement range. Target their command vessel. I want Supreme Commander Vrel alive if possible. Dead if necessary. The human fleet converged on Vrel's flagship like sharks circling wounded prey. Quantum drives allowed them to appear from multiple directions simultaneously, their weapons tearing into shields that were no longer being actively managed by confused Talxirian crew members. Within minutes, the massive warship's defenses collapsed entirely. Their flagship is disabled, the tactical officer reported. Life support intact but weapons offline. They're dead in space, sir. James considered his options. The moral thing would be to offer quarter, to accept surrender and treat the defeated enemy with dignity. But these aliens had come to Earth demanding humanity's enslavement. They had fired first, killed human defenders on Titan and shown no mercy in their boarding actions. Mercy was earned, not given freely. Prepare boarding teams, James ordered. Full marine assault. I want that ship secured and their command staff in custody within the hour. And someone get me a direct channel to President Chen. He needs to hear this from me personally. The assault on Vrel's flagship was swift and brutal. Colonial Marines poured through breached hull sections, moving through the massive ship with practiced efficiency. Talxirian crew members, still reeling from neural disruption, offered minimal resistance. Within 30 minutes, human forces had secured the bridge and engineering sections. Sergeant Marcus Webb was among the first Marines to reach the bridge. He found Supreme Commander Vrel slumped in his command throne, 6 arms hanging limply while his black eyes struggled to focus. The mighty conqueror who had threatened humanity with extinction now looked like a confused animal caught in a trap. Target secured, Marcus reported. Supreme Commander Vrel is alive and in custody. On Earth, President Marcus Chen received the news with a mixture of relief and grim satisfaction. The battle was not over yet. There were still Talxirian ships fighting throughout the system, but the outcome was no longer in doubt. Humanity had faced its first test against hostile alien forces and emerged victorious. Broadcast a message to all Talxirian forces, Marcus instructed his communications director. Tell them their Supreme Commander has been captured. Tell them they have one chance to surrender and withdraw from human space. Make it clear this is not a negotiation. The message went out across all frequencies, translated into Talxirian language by AI systems that had learned the alien tongue from captured communications. Throughout the battlefield, Talxirian ship commanders received the news that their leader had fallen. Their rigid hierarchical structure, which had been such an advantage during conquest campaigns, now became a fatal weakness. Without Vrel to issue orders, without clear chain of command, the surviving ships did not know how to proceed. One by one, Talxirian vessels began powering down their weapons and transmitting surrender codes. Some tried to flee, only to find human ships appearing in their escape routes, quantum drives allowing perfect intercept solutions. Within 6 hours of the battle's beginning, organized Talxirian resistance had completely collapsed. Admiral Whitmore walked through the secured bridge of Vrel's flagship, studying the alien technology with professional interest. The ship was a marvel of engineering, incorporating biological and mechanical systems in ways human designers had never imagined. It represented centuries of technological development by a species that had conquered most of their galaxy. Strip everything, James ordered his technical teams. Computers, weapon systems, drive technology, everything. These aliens came here to make us part of their empire. Instead, they're going to give us the keys to the galaxy. Back on Titan, Commander Sarah Okonkwo surveyed the damage to her station. Several sections had been destroyed in the fighting and 43 of her people were dead or critically injured, but they had held. Against impossible odds, a simple mining station had defied an empire and survived. Earth Command is calling us heroes, her communications officer reported. There's talk of commendations, promotions, the works. Sarah shook her head. We're not heroes. We're just people who refuse to surrender, save the medals for the dead. They're the ones who earned them. Throughout human space, the victory was celebrated with an intensity that surprised even the celebration's participants. Humanity had lived for 2 centuries in fear of hostile alien contact, wondering if their species would survive first contact with spacefaring civilizations. Now they knew. Not only could they survive, they could win. Dr. Aaron Patel received security footage from the Talxirian flagship showing the moment Supreme Commander Vrel was taken into custody. The mighty conqueror looked small and pathetic, his 6 arms bound, his black eyes showing the first emotion humans had seen from him: fear. Aaron felt no sympathy. This being had come to enslave humanity, to force their children into serving an alien war machine. He had earned whatever fate awaited him. Run full analysis on all Talxirian prisoners, Aaron instructed his team. I want to understand everything about their biology, psychology, and culture. If there are more of them out there, we need to be ready. Rebecca Song pulled up preliminary reports. Initial findings suggest the Talxirian Empire spans hundreds of star systems. They have client species, slave races, and tributary worlds throughout 2 galaxies. We just defeated 1 expeditionary fleet. There may be dozens more. Aaron nodded grimly. Then we use what we've learned. We study their technology, understand their weaknesses, and prepare for their return, because they will return. Species like this don't accept defeat. They'll gather their forces and come back stronger. Let them come, Rebecca said quietly. We beat them once. We can do it again. President Marcus Chen addressed the citizens of Earth and its colonies in a broadcast that would be remembered for centuries. He stood in the Situation Room, still wearing the same suit he had worn when rejecting Vrel's ultimatum, looking exhausted but unbowed. Today, humanity faced our greatest challenge, he began. An alien empire came to our home demanding our surrender. They threatened us with extinction if we refused to serve them. They believed we were weak, primitive, easy prey for their war machine. They were wrong. Marcus paused, letting his words sink in. Our victory today was not achieved through superior numbers or more powerful weapons. We won because of who we are as a species. We are adaptable. We are creative. We refuse to accept defeat. When someone threatens our home, we don't surrender. We fight, we innovate, we overcome. The president's expression grew serious. But this victory comes with a cost. Good people died defending our colonies. Families have lost loved ones. We must honor their sacrifice by remaining vigilant, by staying strong, by never forgetting the price of freedom. He looked directly into the camera, his voice carrying the weight of absolute conviction. To any alien species watching this broadcast, consider this a message from humanity. We seek peace. We value cooperation and mutual understanding. But if you bring war to our doorstep, you will regret it instantly. We are not conquerors. We are not empire builders. But we are survivors, and we will defend our own with every resource at our disposal. In the detention facility where Supreme Commander Vrel was being held, the former conqueror watched Chen's speech with growing understanding. He had studied hundreds of species during his military career, learning their strengths and weaknesses to better subjugate them. But he had never encountered anything like humans. Most species, when faced with overwhelming force, would negotiate or surrender. They would calculate odds and accept the logical outcome of military inferiority. Humans did not think that way. They looked at impossible situations and asked how to win anyway. They turned disadvantages into advantages and made weapons from things no one else would consider weaponizing. Vrel realized that his empire had awakened something dangerous. Humanity would not stop with this defensive victory. They would study Talxirian technology, learn from it, improve it, and eventually surpass it. Within a few decades, these former primitives would become a galactic power that could challenge anyone. The Supreme Commander made a decision that would have seemed impossible hours earlier. He requested a meeting with President Chen, offering to provide full intelligence on the Talxirian Empire in exchange for asylum. His own people would execute him for his failure. His only chance of survival was to ally himself with the species he had tried to conquer. When news of Vrel's offer reached the Situation Room, Admiral Whitmore's first instinct was to refuse. We can't trust him, Mr. President. This could be a trap. But Marcus Chen saw the strategic value immediately. Whether we trust him or not is irrelevant. The intelligence he can provide about Talxirian space, their military capabilities, their allied species, that information is priceless. Accept his offer. Put him under maximum security and verify everything he tells us, but accept the offer. In the weeks following the battle, humanity began the process of integrating captured Talxirian technology with their own. The quantum drives that had proven so effective were refined and improved. Project Sentinel was expanded and weaponized for fleet-scale deployment. Colonial defenses were upgraded throughout human space. Most importantly, humanity's psychology shifted. For 2 centuries, they had been explorers and scientists, seeking knowledge and peaceful contact with alien life. Now they understood that the galaxy was far more dangerous than they had imagined. Peace was valuable, but peace required strength to maintain. The Talaxirian prisoners were treated humanely, in accordance with conventions Earth had established for warfare. This confused many of the aliens who expected torture or execution. Their own empire showed no mercy to defeated enemies. The concept of treating prisoners with dignity was foreign to their experience. "Why do you do this?" one Talaxirian soldier asked his human guards. "We came to enslave you. We killed your people. By our laws, we should all be executed." Marine Corporal Lisa Anderson, who had fought in the boarding actions, considered the question carefully. "Because we're not like you. We don't conquer. We don't enslave. We fight when we must, but we don't become monsters in the process. Maybe by treating you with humanity, we can show you there's a better way." The former soldier thought about this for a long time. His species had built an empire on conquest and domination. It had never occurred to him that strength could be paired with mercy, that victory did not require cruelty. Perhaps these humans had something to teach the galaxy after all. 6 months after the battle, Earth received a transmission from deep space. It came from the Galactic Federation, a coalition of peaceful species that had been watching humanity's development for decades. The message was simple and direct. Humanity has proven itself worthy of joining the galactic community. Your defense against the Talaxirian Empire demonstrates both military capability and moral strength. We invite Earth to send representatives to our next council meeting. The galaxy has many wonders to share with those brave enough to seek them. President Marcus Chen read the message with cautious optimism. Humanity had passed its trial by fire, but new challenges awaited. The galaxy was vast, filled with both wonders and dangers. But whatever came next, Earth would face it the same way they had faced the Talaxirian threat, with courage, ingenuity, and the absolute refusal to surrender. The age of human isolation had ended. The age of humanity among the stars had begun, and the galaxy would never be the same.